Hello and welcome to Daily Politics on Trust TV. On this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy and governance. I'm Hamza Idris. Nigeria has continued to grapple with insecurity across regional divides, though with more prominence in the northern parts of the country due to activities of bandits or terrorists who are killing, maiming and kidnapping people for ransom. The deteriorating security situation has impacted negatively on Nigeria's food security, poverty and unemployment, which have also led to the stagnation, if not rapid decline of the nation's economy. While the authorities through security agencies pursue various strategies to deal with the situation, citizens, especially in the frontline states, continue to bear the brunt of the rising terror activities, which has crippled their local economy and make life brutish, nasty and short. It is again this backdrop we will be examining a report put together by a private security and intelligence consulting firm for the June 2024, which has captured the current security situation in the country. And we have in the studio to closely look at the findings Dr. Kabir Adamu, a security and intelligence expert who is also the CEO of Beacon Security and Intel firm. It is our pleasure having you in the studio.
The pleasure is mine. Good evening.
You. But before the conversation, here are some tidbits. The National Working Committee of the All Progressives Congress has threatened the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, to ask the Chief Whip, Senator Ali Ndume, to resign from the party and join either the People's Democratic Party or any other opposition party. APC in the letter also removed Senator Ndume as Chief Whip of the 10th Senate and replaced him with Senator Mohamed Tahir Monguno, APC Borno North. In a letter from the APC signed by the National Chairman Abdullahi Al-Ganduje and the National Secretary Senator Sirajuddin Basir, respectively, the Akpabio, the party said that Ndume's complaints about President Bola Tinubu are unbecoming and he is not favoring the federal government. The request was put to voice by the Senate President and it was affirmed by APC senators. And elsewhere, Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court in Abuja on Wednesday voided the impeachment of Phyllis Shaibu as the Deputy Governor of Edo State. Justice Omotosho, while delivering judgment in the suit, ordered that Shaibu be reinstated to office because the Edo State House of Assembly failed to comply with due process in impeaching him. Justice Omotosho also set aside the appointment of the new Deputy Governor who replaced Shaibu. Obaseki's estranged deputy has pledged loyalty to Benin monarch as tongues continue to work over a controversial court case. The court held that the allegation on which the House of Assembly based the impeachment proceedings was untenable in law and did not constitute gross misconduct. And from the northwest, 5 women, including Ena's mother and her 6-month-old baby, that were abducted in Lanyisa village, Kauranamoda local government area of Zamfara state, have escaped from their captors. The secretary of the ward head of Lanyisa village, Malam Hassan Isa, who confirmed the development yesterday, said they all returned to the village on Monday. Daily Trust had on Tuesday reported that many villagers in the local government area were attacked by bandits. Hassan, popularly known as Yarima, said those that escaped from the bandits are Naima Bashar and her baby, Sudais Bashar, Safia Isa, Inno Lawal Mairoba, Samira, and the wife of one Alhaji Mukhtar. We'll now take a short break. When we return, the conversation commences. Don't go away. Welcome back. Yes, Dr. Kabir, once again, welcome to our studio. As usual, we normally start with the hardest stories of the day. Of course, you're not a politician, but you can't dismiss the issues you dissect from the attitude of politicians. Yes, we woke up with the news of removal of Senate Chief Whip, Senator Ali Ndume. I don't know whether you followed what happened prelude to his removal. What will you say on this?
So, to truth be told, when he made that statement, I was surprised because he's a party man and the party has machineries for airing grievances, and as a leader of a political party, which he is, by the way, for him to be the chief whip and ranking senator He's not just anybody. So when he made that statement, I was a bit surprised. And I felt he spoke out of cue. If at all he felt that the president had barricaded himself, I feel there are better ways. That statement was more or less like the mouthpiece of the opposition. And so it spoke clearly that there were cracks in the walls. And I'm not surprised with the action of the party against him. Because like I said, it's what you expect an opposition member to say and not necessarily a member of the political party.
But do you think that action will resonate with Nigerians who are actually bearing the brunt of maybe indiscretions of the government?
So it's not his position on the suffering of Nigerians that I found surprising, but his reference to the president as being barricaded.
But is the president not barricaded, Dr. Kabir?
I don't think so. As you know, I try to be as objective as possible.
Yes.
On a daily basis, we see the president meeting different sets of people. In fact, I've heard people complaining that the villa has become a market square of all sorts. People do go to the president. Now, whether the president's team is selective in allowing who has access to him, that's a different conversation. And like I said, you can't be a member of a political party, a leader, a ranking leader in a political party, and then be criticizing that political party publicly. And
you know, there was this security breach last month in Borno State. It was in his senatorial zone. And we didn't see his picture or even an inkling. You know, he talks that maybe he had access to the president. Don't you think he was venting his anger? This was his area where, you know, suicide bombers with, you know, whatever you can think of in terms of daring the security architecture there. They went and detonated bombs in different places, killing people. Maybe he wants to voice out that, look, things are not fine in my constituency, and I have to speak out.
Then he should say that.
Okay, clearly.
Clearly, he should. And, you know, he's a senator, and not just a senator, chief whip. It's the position that wields influence. He can stand on the floor of that chamber, mobilize support from other senators, and make a statement that will be supported, and that chamber can send to the presidency that would have weight. But when he comes out to criticize the very president that his political party has produced publicly, my point is he became the mouthpiece of the opposition. You know, when you pick on issues and you make your position known on issues, he could have made his position known on the issue of the cost of living crisis that every Nigerian is going through. And we can relate with that. But when he attacks the person of the president...
He said there are kleptocrats there.
Like I said, it may be true. But we don't expect it to come from him.
On the flip side, we spoke with political analysts. You are a security analyst. Yeah. They said, despite his indiscretion, Senator Indume in the approach, but it's like the Senate and the APC, by extension, they are trampling on freedom of speech, and they are also reducing the hallowed chamber,
our democracy,
you know, to an extension of the presidential villa. I don't know whether you have something to say on this.
So, I mean, words like rubber stamp have been used to describe the 10th Assembly. I wasn't the one who manufactured that word. And I think there is even a bigger word that has been used to describe the 10th Assembly. I agree that to make our democracy vibrant, the executive arm and the legislative arm should be very clear in terms of their positioning and what they want to pursue. We can't have a situation where both, even where there are clear issues like we have in the country at the moment, and then both are speaking with the same mouth. That is not what democracy is all about. Now, and then one thing that I think we've forgotten, the 2023 elections produced one of the most diverse assembly ever that we've ever had in Nigeria. But we're not seeing the result of that. So I'm not blaming the APC, essentially. I'm blaming more the other parties that are represented within the parliament. Now, the APC, my understanding of a political party is that you are united in your policies. He is a member, and I want to emphasize, he's not just an ordinary person. Senator Ali Ndume is a ranking member
been there for
of the Senate.
Over 20 years.
And apart from that, he is occupying a very influential position that is supposed to be the one that would put other senators in line
as the chief whip.
Now, for him to now be the one that is exercising that level of indiscretion, it shows that he is either not conscious of his position. I know him to be a flippant person, for lack of a better word. And perhaps maybe it's time for our politicians to learn that it does not pay to be flippant. You cannot be a member of a political party and then be publicly criticizing. The day you decide to do that, then like they advised him, he should leave and go to another political party. I'll prefer that. I want to see a vibrant Senate. I want to see the opposition party criticizing the ruling party in a manner that Nigerians can align with. And there is enough weapons at their disposal to do that, but we're not seeing it, sadly.
All right. I will skip the second tidbit on Edo, because in your report, while studying it, you spoke about it. Some of the security challenges ahead of the elections.
Definitely.
But then we will set the ball rolling of our conversation today with what is happening in Zamfara. We reported on Monday, over 100 people. In fact, some are putting the figure over 150. We did a follow-up yesterday that in Dengisa, they have profiled the names of 99 people that have been taken away in one fell swoop by terrorists or bandits or whatever name. Are you surprised by this?
Frankly, no.
You're not surprised?
Yes, as sad as it is, no. You are living witness to the fact that the deterioration of security in the Northwest has reached a point where it's almost akin to a national emergency. There are non-state actors there that have challenged almost successfully the supremacy of the use of force by the state. They are able to go to communities, they're able to levy those communities, they're able to exercise control over the resources in those communities. And so if they decide to take people in the manner that they're taking people, I'm sorry to say I'm not surprised. Because as you know, we repeatedly churn out these reports. And Zamfara consistently occupies within the top 5 states that are most affected by insecurity. Zamfara consistently remains there. And if you isolate this factor, the presence of non-state actors who are challenging the supremacy of the use of force, the other issues are minor and can be addressed. The major issue is those non-state actors that are armed and that have decided to confront the state. And as a state, we have failed to take action that would reduce or show them that you cannot challenge the supremacy of the use of force. All these communities that you go to, when you hear their experiences, it's pitiable. And as someone who has some conscience, you weep when you hear how our people have been, even animals in some instances, I'm sorry to say,
they don't pass through that
the
trauma.
Conditions that we go through.
And honestly, to what you said, before we ran that story, this incident happened on Sunday. On Monday, we had an inkling of what happened, but because we wanted to be sure, we couldn't run the story until Tuesday, when we now said, a large number at once taken away, and then some were even killed. The bodies were recovered. And despite that, there were some doubts. Yesterday, we came out with names, we also spoke with authorities. But it's like those in position of power, they don't even want to say anything. What does this portend for the security challenge, especially in Zamfara State?
Accountability. It's as simple as that. We are at a stage where the security sector is lacking in accountability. I don't know of any other country where 100 people would be missing, and then we're moving on as if it's normal. It's accountability.
And honestly, the truth is that we're the only newspaper who led one of our editions with it we did a follow-up. But can we say there is a kind of state capture in Nigeria now, where media houses, glaringly, they have seen things going wrong, but they find it difficult to confront those challenges?
I think it's a little bit more than that. These issues have their origin. As you very well know, they would not, and this is where I think I must comment trust group, the media. Before now, northern issues they are underreported. Trust media has succeeded to a larger extent in breaking that niche. Now northern issues are reported to a manner that a lot of people are able to understand that there is a northern narrative.
But we pay price all the time.
Yes, but that's the price of journalism, unfortunately. And those who understand what journalism is all about will always commend you. You are providing a narrative that without you, no one else will be providing that narrative. Now, whether there is a conspiracy or there is an attempt at the capture, I'm not too sure. It may be a consequence of the absence of either an understanding or a desire to report from that region. The narrative, the binary narrative that most Nigerian media like to report on is ethnicity and religion, and then add politics probably to it. If there is killings in Benue because of the religious component, it will be reported.
By other national broadcasters.
If there are killings in Plateau State, it will be reported. If there are killings in Southern Kaduna, I mean, I've sat down with a journalist and I had to correct her. She was reading a report by Kaduna State, and that report identified 3 local governments that were worst affected by the insecurity, but she was consistently referring to Southern Kaduna. And I had to tell her, read that report again. The report from the state government mentioned Bernungwari, mentioned Igabi, but all you are seeing is Southern Kaduna. And I couldn't blame her, because she's also a consequence of the narrative that has been pointed. So except if you bring yourself out of it, you may also be swallowed by the narrative of those binary issues, religion and ethnicity, and then of course add politics to it. So I think I must commend Media Trust Media for breaking that niche. And despite the difficulties, it's something we'll encourage you to do with professionalism and, of course, with Insecurity, we call it tradecraft, the rules of your profession, so that you reduce the errors to the barest minimum. Because, of course, once there are so many possibilities of errors, but once you use professionalism and tradecraft, you can reduce it to the barest minimum.
All right. Now, take us to events that happened in June.
Okay. As you know, we normally calculate these incidents and then we report them. Now, what we saw in June, let me start with fatalities.
Yes.
In May, we had 1,090 fatalities across the country. But in June, we had 1,025, which is a 6% reduction. I mean, 1,000 is still high. So it's,
yes, I saw 1,128 in May, right?
No,
fatalities 1,090.
And 90, exactly.
This was in May.
In May, but in June
1,025.
So a 6% reduction.
Okay.
But the fact that it's still at 1,000 is worrisome. We should be talking about 100. We should be talking about less than 100. But we're talking of 1,000 Nigerians killed.
And I always like repeating this question. When you say fatalities, what do you mean? State and non-state actors? Civilians? Military? And all that? Other person?
No, we don't include security forces for obvious reasons. So these are all civilians. But they include both the perpetrators and the victims.
Why are you silent on
the military component?
Yes.
Because firstly, it's very difficult, almost impossible to verify when military casualties or other security forces casualties occur. We can get as much as we can, but there is no way of confirming that this is the exact number. And we just felt it's not something we want to delve into, so we left it.
And can you say a country is normal when you have, in whatever guise, because even non-state actors are the creation of state. I don't know, as a security reporter, this is where I'm looking at it. If the state is living up to its expectation? The tendency of having
non-state actors, is almost low.
Exactly. Now, 1,090, of course, you have 1,025 here. I mean, if you put the two together, in 2 months, you lost over 2,000.
Over 2,000. So what we did in this particular report, we also provided details of the quarter 2 tally. In other words, we added April, May, and June, and came up with a figure. We also added January to June to come up, just to give us a picture. And I'm very concerned. We're already at 5,000.
Between January and now?
Between January and June. So if this momentum remains, it means that by December, we'll be looking at 10,000. And that's like, there's no parameter that you use that you comment that it is bad. But where the progress is, if I move to abduction, we saw progress there. There was a reduction in the number of persons that were abducted. In May, we tallied 1,128.
Yes.
But then by June, it had reduced to 467, which is about almost a 59% reduction. And the reason why we do this, we would love our security agencies to look at the granular issues. If you've had almost 60% reduction, you should commend yourself, because it means there's something that you are doing that is right. Now, when we looked closely at the states to see which states where this reduction recorded, it was interesting that places like Katsina, places like Kogi, places like Zamfara, places like Niger State.
These abductions have reduced.
They reduced tremendously.
What do you think are the factors?
Security force operations mainly. There are ongoing security forces operations. Some of the bandit leaders have been arrested, others have been killed. So that led to a reduction, clearly. Another thing that we saw is the forested parts where these gunmen take their victims to. A lot of security operations are going on in those places. So it was very difficult for them to, even when they abduct, to keep them in those forested parts. So the methodology, the solution is known to us.
To you as a professional, or
to the security forces, the problem is the momentum. Now you can't go into a forested part, carry out an operation and then withdraw. And all you've done is you've succeeded in, so maybe a particular limb, the hand is bleeding, and then you put a bandage, and then the bleeding stops, and then you immediately loosen the bandage.
They cite environmental factors. For instance, when I was in Maiduguri, they carry out operations at the height of
the dry season.
And
then during the rainy season.
During the rainy season, they retreat. And
anyone who tells you that, I'll tell you that he's allowed his brain to go to sleep. We don't need human beings to have surveillance in our forested parts. In today's world, there is enough technology to have. What you need is a light force with tactical capabilities.
Light force, you mean maybe
tactical capabilities.
Instead of using rocket launchers?
We have surveillance capabilities. There are different types of surveillance capabilities that we could use that would tell us what is happening within those forests. Now, what you do with that light force, the light force are deployed to different bases. The moment you see something wrong in a particular forest, Hamza, imagine a situation where I'm seated in front of a monitoring room and I have the ability to see 1,000 kilometers into a particular location, and I'm able to see 100 bandits on motorbikes moving.
You think we have those facilities in Nigeria?
So from the time someone told you of what you just mentioned in Sambisa Forest to now, what has stopped us from procuring and putting in place those facilities? Nothing, except I think perhaps maybe we're not interested.
Don't you think, on the flip side of massive operations, that the rate of abduction went down because the people have been so pauperized that they don't, even if you abduct, they have nothing to give?
No, I don't think so, because we just started our conversation by saying poor people in Zamfara State, 100 of them have been abducted in the month of July. Now, it's very likely that we're going to see that increase again in the month of July from what we're already seeing. So I don't think it's an issue of people becoming pauperized, because those abductions are still ongoing, and even as we speak. It was just, for me, the momentum of operations in particular locations. I mentioned Zamfara, Katsina, to an extent, Sokoto, Kebbi, Kogi. There were security operations that reduced abduction rates in those locations. Now, the problem with those security operations is that they are not sustainable. The current state of the economy will not allow the sustainability. Every time we write our report, we mention that the approach has to be sustainable. The resilience of the local communities is what we should seek to build, so that the ownership of those operations is rested within those communities.
We have seen budget going up, security budget, almost
every year.
Every year, yes. You have demystified the theory I brought, that, okay, they can only flourish during dry season. Now, are you not surprised? Look at what happened in the United States, despite the conspiracy theories and all that. This young man who shot at the Republican nominee Trump, he doesn't have anything on him. Nothing, no ID card, no paper, nothing. But in less than 5 hours, they were able to now identify him, including his persuasion, family background, and all that. What is wrong with us in Nigeria? Because they say they did DNA, and from DNA they found everything about him.
Accountability, honestly. As you and I are talking today, our national identification scheme is still at a baby stage, despite several presidential directives to harmonize that scheme. And I must commend the current administration. They were very fast in identifying the challenge and moving NIMSI from where it was before to the Ministry of Interior. It's a good step, and it's a step in the right direction. Okay. The only challenge is that, from what NIMSI has mentioned, they've only been able to capture about 100 million people as at the last time they released the report. And that means more than another 100 million have not been captured. So if, as a security personnel, I need the profile of an individual and he is not documented, how am I going to get that profile?
But some people, Doctor, are saying there is this deliberate attempt by those in position of authority to weaponize the authority at their instance. For instance, if you take the military or the police or civil defense, you go to National Bureau of Statistics, you go to National Population Commission, you go to NCC. Nigeria is rich in data. It's to harmonize that you don't see. Just last week, because of public outcry, the police now retraced their step from asking us to now pay money for biometric
something that we've already done with another agency.
So can we dismiss deliberate weaponization of opportunities by those in position of authority to perpetuate the insecurity, the poverty, and all that in the country the existential problems?
I honestly don't think we've become that bad. I don't think so. I agree that there may be one or two elements. For example, someone who, when he was in authority, decided to situate a university in his town, when the troops that were serving under him were moving in light vehicles, not armored vehicles. And then the person who now complains that we have our soldiers carrying AK-47s that jam was in a position to stop that, but did not stop it. So instances like that, I think, exist. But to generalize and say, I don't think we've become that bad. Again, I also think there is an issue of capacity. Security is not as easy as some people think. Security sector governance requires a depth of knowledge that I don't see most people having. And I'm sorry to say, even some people occupying the very highest positions at the moment do not understand security sector governance. Yes, you can understand security, you can be a policeman, you can be a military man, but security sector governance requires a level of administration that would allow you to coordinate the various elements of security. We're discussing national identification. How many of them understand the relevance of national identification in security? When they go for joint meetings, maybe even at the level of National Security Council, who will stand up and look at everybody in that council and remind them that perhaps if we focus on this gray area and give it 3 months to say all of us seated here, we want to have a harmonized national identification system, but we will be able to do it. But I doubt if anybody will do that. They are more interested in the procurement of physical equipment to fight security, when the soft aspects,
which will
help them, is not being done. We sometimes we require the international community to actually push us. The reason why even NIMSI has moved to this point is, do you remember when the US banned us from, I think it was under, I can't remember which administration, then they suspended the issuance of visas, and then they gave us conditions to meet. That was when we woke up and then we started moving forward. And a lot of effort that is being made at the moment, honestly, is as a result of our association with international bodies. They are the ones who push us. But we need to reach a point where our leaders recognize that we don't have any other country but Nigeria.
All right, in your report, this time around, incidents 618, affected 37 states,
36 states and FCT Abuja.
Abuja, and then 242 local government areas. Are you not worried?
Of course, I'm very concerned.
37.
It means every state in Nigeria and the FCT Abuja was
nowhere is immune.
Nowhere. Of course, it depends on what particular security incident you are looking at, but no part of the country is immune.
And I saw you somewhere mentioning environmental, economic, political, and social issues. Take us through.
So what we saw is that there are triggers, those drivers, those things that the manifestation of insecurity is what people actually see. Okay. Most people don't see the drivers of insecurity. So these political, social, environmental, and then sometimes direct security issues are the things that are driving the insecurity. So as an example, the cost of living crisis that we're going through at the moment, food inflation is almost at 40-something%. Inflation itself is at over 30%. People are being sacked. Quality of life is reduced. Medicine is not affordable. So even people who ordinarily would not be disposed to criminality as a result of this cost of living crisis may end up being disposed to, crime. And then when you look at the environmental factors, so many elements can be embedded there. We have militias that are ethnic-based. If you go to Plateau State, go to Benue State, parts of Nasarawa State, all over the country, you have ethnic militias that are being armed for one reason or the other. Southeast is another factor. The case of Nnamdi Kanu is largely driven by his association with his ethnic group and the desire to, rebut the Biafran state. And then, of course, the political issues. We cited some of these bills that are being proposed at the moment, the regional government, the state police, the issues in Rivers State, issues in Kaduna State. All of these are political issues that, if they are not properly managed, would be drivers for insecurity. Protests are being organized at the moment. Those protests are a result of some of these economic and political issues.
And just this evening, PDP governors, they rose from a meeting in Enugu. They are just short of saying we have passed vote of no confidence. They didn't say that, but they said the economic policies of the Tinubu administration have failed woefully. And they are really scared. They call on the government to be sincere. Is there a nexus between maybe getting it right in addressing the existential security issues vis-a-vis economic issues and vis-a-vis having a stable political environment?
Definitely. The three are interrelated. You can't have one without the other. If you solve the economic challenge, it will have a positive impact on security. It will not address it, but it would give especially policy implementing agencies in the security sector, their ability to manage the issues better. No matter how well they are working, if those drivers of insecurity are there, I mean, the eco space that banditry is subsisting in, no matter how effective security forces are, if that eco space continues to expand. I mean, every day every week, the military organizes a conference and they say they've killed this number of persons. Well, and people are beginning to ask, if they are killing this number of persons, why is it that we're seeing more of these bandits operating? So the simple reason is that these bandits are able to recruit more. These bandits are able to buy more weapons and the ammunition that they use in those weapons. And these bandits are also able to incentivize people within the communities because of the economic...
To join them.
To join them, circumstances. So there is a positive correlation between all the three factors: economy, politics, and then both social and environmental issues. If the more the economy deteriorates, the more the economic crisis, the cost of living crisis sustains, the more you would see crime. And what we don't want is that to go to that state where people would abandon complying with the law, obeying the law, because they want to fit.
In your findings of June, which geopolitical zone is more prone to
security crisis?
Yes.
It was the Northwest, but just a moment, I'll give you the figure.
Okay.
It was the Northwest that we saw that had the highest security challenges. Northwest, yes. When we broke down, so we did I told you we did for Q1, Q2.
Yes.
We added the Q2 and then did for the 6 months in its entirety.
Okay.
Now, for Q2, the top 5 states that were worstly affected was Borno.
That is in the northeast.
In the northeast, followed by Lagos, incidentally. But this is for incidents, sorry, not for fatalities.
Okay.
What we saw for fatalities, according to the regions, is Northwest had 1,063 abducted persons, while it had 1,220 fatalities. Northwest. And followed by North Central, which was 508 for abducted persons, and then 469 for fatalities. And then the Northeast had abducted 180, and then 946 for fatalities. So depending on what you look at, if you go to Northwest had more both fatalities and abducted persons. Like I said, 1,000 in both instances.
Now this compels me to take us to the Northwest Security Summit, organized by the governors. You were there. You were one of the panelists at that event. What is the biggest takeaway?
I think the desire for political leaders to address the issue, and the fact that they came together as a group and wisely included the Niger State government. And for obvious reasons, the forests that traverses the some of the 7 states in the Northwest also enters into Niger State. So any action they take, if they don't include Niger, it will be futile.
But I didn't see representation from Niger there.
There was. I think the secretary to the state government was there.
Of Niger. But are you not worried that only 3 governors were there?
Yeah.
The governor of the House governor, and then you have the governor of Jigawa, right?
Jigawa, Zamfara.
And then you have governor of Zamfara. Sokoto sent his deputy, right?
Yes.
Kano sent the secretary to the state government.
I mean, for obvious reasons, because of the tussle, the emirate tussle in Kano.
But should emirate tussle actually supersede this serious problem?
It is an existential challenge. The relevance of the emirate in Kano in all ramifications is a serious issue. And it became very obvious that some officials at the federal level were behind part of the crisis. It also became very obvious that the Kano state government was supportive of one of the candidates. And so essentially, it was a proxy war between some officials at the federal level and then the Kano state government. And his absence in Kano could precipitate some actions that...
I know that there was no communique at the end of that Northwest meeting. They said they will come up with... Have you heard of it? Because you ought to be private.
Unfortunately, no. After the conference, I was in touch with some of the organizers, and they did promise that they will keep us updated, but we haven't done that. One of the things I also tried to do was to encourage the federal government to become more involved. If you pick up the Renewed Hope agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, it's mentioned in that document that the government intends to come up with a framework for addressing security issues at the regional level. In other words, there's a realization that each of the region has peculiar security challenges.
It's not one size fits all.
Exactly. So
the formula can't work.
It can't. If one framework is established for the entire country, we need specific frameworks. You can tie those specific frameworks into one. In other words, bring all the 6 together and produce one. But each region has peculiar challenges, and it's very obvious. So if that is promised, what I told some members of the federal government is you have an opportunity. Our development partners and the Northwest region have sat down together. They have discussed the issues of the region. So why don't you take advantage of the situation and come up with a framework for addressing the security challenges in the region? They can't do it alone because security still remains in the exclusive list. So whatever they do, they need the federal government. And if the federal government takes, you were there,
yes,
the vice president delivered his speech, and I'm sorry to say almost all the top government officials that came at the federal level left with him. In his own case, we can understand. He was bereaved.
He was bereaved that day.
So his departure was understood. But what of the other top government officials? So it was sad for me to see that happening. Because like I said, I've read the Renewed Hope agenda, and I know that that promise was made. So it was a very good opportunity for the federal government to sit with the state governors and our development partners and come up with a framework. We missed that opportunity. It's not too late. I do hope, because like I said, I did try to instigate that. I met 1 or 2 persons at the federal level to advise them that don't miss out on this opportunity and do that. So I hope they did, and I hope that whatever is going to come out would have the buy-in of the federal government.
Is there anything that you think they ought to have discussed? Are there some groups that have been excluded from that event? And
Mala Hamza, there was, and I did advise them to make sure that those groups are reached. But if you allow me, I wouldn't want to mention that here, because our intention is to fix and not to cause more problems. But yes, there was, and like I said, I did advise the organizers that they should reach out to those particular groups. Okay, now broadly, is it economic exclusion that is precipitating the problem in the Northwest? And you think the federal government can solve that problem, not the states? So, bottom-top approach or top-bottom approach? It's a combination of both. The technical sessions at the Northwest Peace and Security Conference would... I'm very happy with the technical issues that were discussed. That were raised. Yes, yeah. I'm very happy with them because it showed that they have an understanding of the drivers of insecurity in the region. Climate change, as an example. The young lady that was brought, who spoke, very well. Eloquently. We are all very pleased. She is operating in that climate change space. The Minister of Trade and Investment, the Minister of, what do they call her? The one who looks at... the Minister of Sports or the Minister of Tourism? The lady from Katsina. Okay, Minister of Culture. Culture, exactly. Musawa. And there's another thing added to the culture. All of creative economy. So all of those issues are very important issues, because if you are able to provide employment in the region, it would take away the pool that the bad guys recruit from. So understanding that there is a nexus between the economy and insecurity is very important. Agriculture, if you remember, it was discussed extensively. Yes. If we revamp agriculture in the Northwest, it will provide employment to a significant portion of people. And that means the pool that the bad guys recruit from would be taken away. Mining, even though mining was not given the attention that it should have. And it's a significant factor. It is. I saw a post by Senator Shehu Sani. I don't want to call name, but he identified a certain foreigner group
that despite the insurgency, despite the banditry,
they are still able to operate.
They are still operating seamlessly.
So, Hamza, intelligence is the key to solving a lot of our challenges, and it worries me that we have a plethora of intelligence organizations in Nigeria, yet these things are happening. We are a part of the Global Committee of Nations. We can't stop people from coming to Nigeria, but we can make them comply with our laws.
And that is why I keep saying whether it is the economic aspect, I mean the economy, war economy, that is driving.
It is a driver, no doubt. The economy, like I repeated severally, there is a nexus between the economy.
Not the larger economy. I'm talking about what those in position of power are gaining when this insecurity persisted.
That too is a factor. The political economy of quote and unquote funding insecurity. I mean, it's a big way of saying corruption. But yes, it is a factor, and it continuously allows people to benefit from the system. We talked about accountability earlier on. There are two components of accountability: financial accountability and operational accountability. The security sector lacks both. It's not just operational accountability. Failures occur in the security sector and nobody is held accountable. Monies that go into that sector, I mean, I cited the example of a university that was built until,
unfortunately. Well, in 10 seconds now, going forward, what do you think government must do so that the outcome of July, even though we are midway into July, will be less than in June? This will be in 30 seconds because we are coming to the end of the program.
So get the buy-in of, especially the state governors, and then the buy-in of the people. Make sure all the security interventions have the buy-in of the people, because what is going on right now is not sustainable.
All right, thank you very much. We once again hope that you honor our invitation next time.
It will be my pleasure.
Yes, viewers, we've been with Dr. Kabir Adamu, a security and intelligence expert who is also the CEO of Beacon Consult, discussing what happened in the month of June. And that's a wrap on today's package. We sincerely hope you found the conversation engaging and informative. And be sure to join Daily Politics Live, airing every weekday, and also our special package on Friday, during which we open the telephone line for you to comment on national issues. Once again, I'm Hamza Idris. Bye-bye for now.